Welcome to the Call to Farms podcast. I'm your host, Tim Ing, the homesteading agent, joined by my lovely wife, Sophie.
Hey friends, this is Sophie of Sprinkle with Soil and the Homesteading Lender.
And this is part 2 of my journey back to West Point after 20 years.
Well, let's just start with what we talked about at dinner tonight. And if you listened in on episode, what was it, 76? And part 1 of this series where Tim and I were talking through what decisions he had to make to get into West Point, when he made those decisions. After our interview a couple of days ago on that episode, it made me realize that for all the reasons that I didn't give you a shot in high school was because I thought that you weren't Asian enough. Like, I didn't think that you honored your traditions, that you're trying to be something you weren't. And mainly because when we were in our sophomore year in high school, you started trying out with football and I ran track, right? And just so you know, most Asian Americans, at least in our high school, you were playing tennis and you were playing badminton. I didn't choose any of those because I didn't want to be, it's just ironic, right? I didn't want to be stereotyped as that. So I ran track and I did hurdles and competed really well. That's where we ran track together, but we were almost high school rivals. And I didn't give you a shot. Like, I was very turned off by the fact that I thought that you were trying to be something you weren't. And only because very few Asian Americans play football well. And after the part 1 of our interview, I realized that I completely missed out on the fact that when I was feeling those feelings towards you, you already had your mind made up to start training to get into West Point. And I'm sorry.
Well, funny note is that I will add that I did try out for badminton freshman year. Okay, so I was Asian enough for that.
That I
But
didn't do.
sophomore year, I did try out for football, and I got laid out. I'm going to just tell you, a lot of the guys that do football in San Jose, they did Pop Warner, so they've been doing football since they were 5 years old. They've been tackling. And here I was. Once again, my father didn't want to pay for me to do Pop Warner as a kid, just like Boy Scouts. And so I'm trying out for the football team as a linebacker, and I'm trying to tackle our star halfback, and he puts his helmet down low and just takes the wind out of me. I was just gasping for air. And I've had my share of concussions playing football, and I was smaller, so I played as cornerback, tried out for wide receiver. But regardless, I did football because I needed to do sports to get into West Point, and I did track as conditioning for football. And as a result of that, I was able to meet you. And senior year of high school, I forced myself to join cross country. I hate to run long distances, but I knew that I had to force myself to get conditioned so that I wouldn't be further behind once I went to West Point and joined beast training and began running miles and miles and miles. I wanted to at least get my legs ready for that.
Right. But I think the biggest takeaway for me from our interview, and we had dinner tonight and talked to the kids about this, which was the fact that we have these preconceived notions of people that we meet, and we have no idea where they are in their lives. Mm-hmm. And here I was thinking, like, who are you trying to be? You're trying to be someone you're not, but you have already made your decision and we're on this track.
Right.
You weren't trying to be someone you weren't. You were training for something much bigger. And like, I hate that I thought that and felt those things because I felt like we missed out on those years in high school. We missed out on those years in college because Tim and I didn't date until after we graduated. And so I didn't get to see, I wasn't a part of any of your West Point things. And we can talk about how I really felt about West Point during that time. But I missed out on a lot of it. And I'm starting to realize within myself that I can't believe we've been together for 20 years now, officially. We dated after college in '05, and I'm now just, I feel like I'm getting to know you, like a different version of you that I'm falling in love more and more.
Oh,
And yeah, no, I don't know. This trip was, I don't know, maybe it's just like you hit your 40s, you're close to mid 40. And I think that if nothing else, this trip to DC and New York has given me an additional perspective into who you are and has been very redemptive in me and how, like, all of the miscommunications that we've had over the years that we've been together. And the first couple of years in our marriage have been difficult because you had just gotten back from Iraq and you had a lot of things that you were dealing with then.
yeah.
And we were in our mid 20s. And so, like,
It's okay.
I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, for the first time in a long time, like, I'm getting to know you. And I wish that we went to New York. I wish that I had seen West Point earlier on in our marriage, so it would answer a lot of the things, you know, like why I often like tell you your face is, why are you cranky? Why do you look so grumpy all the time? Like I, you know, for much of in my 20s, I would internalize it and think it was something that I did or didn't do. And then
Yeah.
in my 30s, after kids, I would say to myself, like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to let your emotions be my emotions. So, you know, I kind of dismissed that. And now, after seeing the cadets, when we were there and we saw the cadets do their eyes right, and when they marched past, who was it?
The superintendent's box.
Yeah. And I didn't understand. And I had to ask you later because we were in two different spots when they were marching.
Yeah.
But our youngest tugged at me and she said, why do they look so mean? And I said, they're not mean. That's Daddy's face. And then as I said it, I realized all the emotions of, like, oh, that's why your face is the way that it is. You trained at the #1 elite military academy in the entire world. Like, of course you were trained not to smile. I don't know why it had to take me seeing other cadets go through that and see it for myself to realize that, well, yeah, you have to be stoic. You were broken down and trained back up to be that way.
Right.
I think it was on Veterans Day, and I wrote this Facebook post because I woke up that morning and I gave you a big hug and I cried and I said, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't see you. And I didn't expect to get all emotional on this, in this interview, but it's answered a lot of questions for me. And I think it's helped out our marriage a ton because it gave me a perspective of you. And in our early years of marriage, I would tell you, like, you should be more playful. You know, all of my other friends are playful and, like, you're so serious. Like, and the early years of our marriage, I was questioning, did I marry the right one? Like, I don't want my life to be serious. I want it to be lighthearted. I want to do serious things, but not take life so seriously. And that was honestly, like, the first few years of our marriage were pretty rough because of it. And then,
Yeah. We had gotten, I do appreciate that. And better now than ever, and better now than before we become empty nesters. But there's timing for everything. And there has to be a reason why we didn't spend time together back then. It's God's perfect timing.
yeah.
And I'm just grateful that we had that time together. Yeah, I know we had our arguments before. You wanted to have someone who joked around with you more. I remember telling you, do you want to marry a clown? Because I am the furthest thing from it. But I think I'm funny. The kids think I'm funny. But I know That is my stoic look. I don't try to look mean, and that's just my normal look.
I know you don't try to. And I'm sure I have an RBF face too when I'm deep in thought. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good. And while we were watching the cadets march out, there was another wife there with the husband, and they had all dated while they were in college. And I
Yeah.
remember leaning in and asking you, why didn't you ask me to your games? Why didn't you ask me to come and visit you? We knew each other in high school. Why didn't you ask me to attend your graduation and celebrate that with you? Because we were in DC just a month prior.
I gave you hints,
Yeah, but
little breadcrumbs.
you know me. I'm like, you just smack me. You didn't actually invite me and say like, I really want you there. I think that if you're like, hey, you should come, like, I'm obviously not going to come. You're not safe. Like, you're some random guy from high school that like, I'm not going to drive 5 hours up to see without like anybody with me.
Right.
I wouldn't want our children to do that.
I know.
But after seeing the cadets come out and march out, I remember just thinking like, I would have loved to have been a part of at least your graduation.
Yeah.
To be there as a friend, to be there to celebrate all that you went through. But it just gave me a different perspective in you and much deeper appreciation for what you had to go through at West Point and what everybody else has to go through. Really, I think it's, most people, if they enlist, I assume they go through like boot camp, right? I almost feel like you had 4 years of just pure hazing and boot camp to prepare you for leadership. And
It's not 4 years, but
yeah,
1 full year. But the latter years are a lot better at the academy. The more freedoms.
not really, not the type of freedoms that I had as a regular college attendee. So, but anyway, so for today, I do want to talk to you. We're just going to leave it open again. This is really time for us to go through and unravel a lot of things. So last we spoke, you were talking about finishing up West Point, and I think it would be good to hear your after years as you finished up there. And we can talk about grit too and the types of training, and that might be another conversation. I am always curious in our just conversations when you've told us about West Point, what you went through. I often will ask you, well, what was the purpose of that?
Yeah.
Why do they make you go through the things like at the dining hall? We were able to take part of the mess hall. Is that what you called it? And I remember when you were telling me before about how important it was to have etiquette at the table.
Yep.
And that's something that these little nuggets that we can take back to our home life and teach up the children without adding the extra layer of trauma into it.
Yeah, we even had a class on etiquette. We had a woman come in and teach us etiquette and the different forks that you would use and how you would greet and go through a receiving line. We even had ballroom dance lessons. So a lot of the old core things were still maintained, and they still offered it to us as cadets to be more, gentlemanlike. And there is always a reason behind, or the madness, I would like to believe, as to why they taught us what they taught us. But going back to going through West Point, getting through that first year was really tough. I didn't know I was going to make it. And after that, the second year is a little bit better as a yearling because you're a team leader. And I think it's very similar to in the Greek world when you're a big brother and you have a little. And as a yearling or a sophomore, you're taking care of your plebe. You may have 1 or 2 plebes, and you want to make sure that they're getting their homework done and that they're surviving through West Point. But after that year, then you take the oath. That's when it becomes real that you can't leave after that. So you have that decision to make. whether you want to leave West Point, go to another school, or continue on. Because once you start your cow year,
which is
your junior year,
third
that
year.
they call it when the cows come home. Back in the day, that was the first time you can leave West Point, was your junior year. So I'm glad that they changed the rules to allow us as plebes to go back during our first year. So as a cow, you're actually now starting to do your whatever you're majoring in. And so I was super excited. Again, going back to our culture, Asian customs, I'm the eldest son in a Chinese family. I wanted to make my father proud. My father majored in civil engineering at UC Berkeley. West Point is known for civil engineering. It was the very first engineering school in the U.S., and they also compete, their civil engineering class competes every year against UC Berkeley, and they make concrete canoes. And so anyways, there's this connection, and I wanted to make my father proud, so I majored in civil engineering. But I realized just taking the first classes, like mechanics and materials, I was struggling through it. And the hardest thing I had to do at West Point was actually tell my father, I can't hack it with this major, and that I need to change and switch majors to history, because that's something that I actually love learning about. And I know the goal when I was at West Point was to graduate from West Point and then go into the Army. My dream was to make Army my career. And then once I finished off as a colonel or a general, then go into politics. So that was my dream. And going into junior year, now going into senior year, first year, that was the best time. And so I did wish that we were dating at that time, because then we would have gone to ring weekend, and that is a really big deal, as well as graduation. And it's a really fun time, because in the Army, we say we're short timers, meaning we don't care what's going on. We're just thinking about leaving, thinking about graduation. All the cadets are always thinking about what is life like after the academy. We know that when we're in the academy, we're playing a game and we're playing by their rules, but we know that the Army doesn't operate exactly like how the academy is. So everyone is super excited. And because of where I graduated, I put my top 3 choices for my branches. And the academy gets first choice before the ROTC guys do. So I'm guaranteed my top 3, but engineer was my third choice. And I half think it's because of my last name, Ng, that they made me an engineer. I don't know. But everything happens for a reason. And I got the engineers, and we have branch night. We have engineers. And then after that, based on where we're graduating, our GPA. And if you listen back to the first video, we had to go through swimming, gymnastics, and all these other courses that people don't sign up for normally at a typical college. That gets rolled into your cumulative GPA. So now, as a senior or a firstie, that's going to determine what post I get, meaning after graduation, where I'm going to report to after my officer basic course. And I only had a few choices. You get a board, and they have all the positions, all the locations, and they go down the line. The number 1 engineer you pick, and then, of course, it's going to pick like Hawaii or something like that. And it goes all the way down to when I was coming up, and I only had a few choices. I had Fort Benning, it's called Fort Moore now in Georgia, and a place in Alaska, as well as a place in Missouri. So I chose Fort Benning in Georgia. And by choosing that determined what unit I was going to go into. So reporting in, I went to 3rd ID. It's a mechanized unit, meaning that we rode around in up-armored vehicles. And I was assigned to an engineer platoon. Going into the Army, I was very physically fit. Everything that West Point trained us to do, we would do our 2 mile times. We would have stricter standards than the normal Army. So that way it would force us to run faster. That way, when we showed up to our unit, we would always beat the other officers, and we would beat the other soldiers, because you want to be the fastest.
So you're saying that you were trained at West Point to more rigorous times than the Army itself. So when you went out to the Army, you would be ahead of all of the others.
Yeah, it got real. Right before graduation, I didn't pass my 2 mile time, and me and a few others, and I had to pass it. If I didn't pass it, I wasn't going to graduate on time. So if you
For
think
a 2 mile run?
Yes. So you think every year we take the APFT, Army Physical Fitness Test. but our standards at West Point are higher than in the normal Army. You have to finish at a certain time, then we'll beat that time by 30 seconds or something like that. So I passed it according to the Army standards, but I didn't pass it according to West Point standards. I did my push-ups and sit-ups, were fine, but the run time was lagging. And I had to go through remedial PT, meaning I would have to run every day after my classes were done. So instead of doing mandatory sports or parading, I would have to run with our special group of cadets who needed to pass the PT test in order to graduate on time. If I didn't graduate on time, then I would have had to graduate that December. And that affects everything, promotion rate. I mean, it affects everything. So I knew the stakes were high and I busted, my bottom to get to where I was at. And I'm not going to let a 2-mile run time stop me. So I was hustling and I was running every single day. And I did pass it. But I'm going to tell you, even first a year when you're supposed to be just chilling and just relaxing and planning for the future, I remember just down to the wire that I had to run. I literally had to run my butt off to make sure that I could pass this test so I can graduate on time and toss my hat up in the air with all of my classmates.
Because you wouldn't be able to do that in December?
No, in December, then I would have to stay at West Point over the summer and then graduate with whoever else had to graduate in December. So it's only going to be a few of us.
The misfits.
Yeah, the misfits, 20 of us or something like that. Oh. And then we can report to our officer basic course. So then that puts us almost 6 months behind our peers. And that's going to affect promotion rate from there because that's when I pin on second lieutenant. And then it starts the time for when you can make the other ranks.
It's just really fascinating because the rest of us, my senior year, I was pretty much done. I took ceramics because I finished all my necessary credits for graduation, and I took it easy my senior year. Yeah. This is what I'm now coming to appreciate, the fact that you not only had to compete on an academic level, but you also had to compete on a physical aptitude level that was actually quite rigorous. Everything that you said, from wrestling to swimming to ballroom dancing, boxing, all those things. And for it to also affect your GPA, which I get, but it was not really something that you cared to do, or nor was it required to be an engineer or an officer in the military, I would think. But that all ties back to grit. I don't know if you've told me this in the past and maybe I didn't pay attention. You say I'm a terrible listener. But I feel like I'm hearing this for the first time. And maybe it's because after seeing West Point, I have such a greater appreciation for what you went through and actually want to hear. And also we have children that are considering if they want to go to college, if they would consider going to West Point. So I want to consider all these things and how it's going to build them overall with their character and their work ethic.
Yeah, I mean, and just like what you mentioned earlier about how you judge the book by its cover, I'm glad that we had that discussion over dinner and we eat dinner together as a family so that our children can hear, when we change our minds and when we make a mistake and when we make corrections because we're flawed, that they hear it from us and then we acknowledge it, right? And so I think it's important. I'm glad that we still do things together as a family. We're doing this best we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how interesting that, even till the very end, and I know that when you graduated, you were probably at the fittest of your probably career. You're 21, had 4 years now of training at West Point, and yet it came down to this 2 miles. So then what happened?
And I passed it. And so I graduated, and I didn't even, you can look this up online, but you have to take the IOCT every year. It's the indoor obstacle course I don't know what the T is for.
Training.
Yeah. You have to pass it under a certain time every single year in order to go home for winter break. And there were close calls for me. But it's literally, if you used to watch like Gladiator or some of those like Wipeout or something extreme like that, it's kind of like that without the water. And you'll have to YouTube it, but it's really interesting. All the different things that you have to do, walk on a balance beam, do a bunch of runs, jump over a wall, do your monkey bars. But there are a lot of things that you have to do. It's kind of fun, except when they make it mandatory that you have to get it done or else. And it kicks up dust. Everybody coughs. And we swear that there's asbestos in that hall because we think it's been there since West Point was built, and we're just kicking up dust while we're... Anyways, they promise not to change it because the core is the core, and so we actually got a chance to see it when we went back for the reunion and saw Arvin Gym, and all the grads like to look and make sure that it's still the same. Some of the equipment looks a little bit different, newer, but the room still looks intact. Anyways, this was an interesting experience. I know I'm sharing all my struggles with it. I promise you, I was a very good cadet. It's just I want to share that many of the other cadets had it easier, maybe because they were physically stronger, they were smarter. We came from all over the U.S., had different experiences, and some of them have been training for it since they were young, whereas I was training since I was sophomore in high school, and I didn't have any family members who were in the military. I mean, my grandfather was, but I couldn't speak to him, and he was in the Army. But no one else ever went through this career path of attending a military academy. So I wanted to make sure that I did a good job. I did graduate, went off to my unit, and West Point did set me up for success. All the things that they taught me on leadership and the advice they gave me on listening to my senior NCOs going into my first unit really helped me do well. Now,
NCOs is
non-commissioned officers. They're enlisted, but then they move up the ranks and then they become subject matter experts in whatever field. So I'm in the engineering. I'm a combat engineer, and they are more proficient in the skills like using C4 explosives and things like that. So they learn that trade, that craft, and then they perfect it so that they can teach their soldiers within their squads. So it was a very good experience going into the Army. I did feel that the West Point training helped me, and it was on par, if not even better than what, working with other ROTC officers. And we had our own clique. I mean, because we came from the academy, and we have a shared bond as to like the shared experiences that we went through. So that's the Army life coming in. I don't know if you want me to share a little bit about my Army experience.
Yeah, we can start from there. So you pinned on as a second lieutenant.
Yeah.
On May 28th, 2005.
Yeah, my parents were there.
And
good
Jonathan
friends,
Carrick was there. So you had family and friends there. I wish I was there.
I wish you were there too.
And then after that, you went to Fort Benning.
I went to Fort Leonard Wood first.
Fort Leonard Wood.
So
Okay.
Fort Leonard Wood,
right.
Missouri is the home of the engineers as well as other branches. And you go there for the 2 or 3 months of training up for officer basic course for engineers. And it's a really quick run as to what to expect, some of the skill sets, what the engineers offer in terms of like explosives or building bridges. Route clearance was a new thing that was coming in. And so we were doing that as well as land navigation and just doing regular PT in the mornings to stay physically fit. And did that for 2 or 3 months. We met during that time as well.
So, okay, going back to graduation. So we had met up when you came down to DC for your senior project.
Yeah, I was writing my thesis for my history project.
And you needed to go to the Library of Congress.
National Archives, yeah.
Okay. So we had one full day together. I got a zip car, which is back then equivalent to like Turo. I think that's what it is now.
Right.
where you could rent someone else's car and take it out for several hours. So I knew you were coming. I didn't have a car. So I got a car, took you to Eden, which is this Vietnamese community down in Arlington, Alexandria
Falls.
Falls Church,
Yeah. What's that?
Virginia. And we had some good Vietnamese food, and then we toured the Jefferson Memorial and the World War II Memorial. Was that it?
Yeah.
I think that was
We
it.
didn't have that much time.
And then, right, I think those are the two that you said you wanted to go and check out, because I think you had seen the others before.
Yeah.
And the World War II was still under construction.
It was really new.
It was really new. I think that
Good time.
had just opened.
Yeah.
And then we had dinner with my friends, and then I think you went back. But I remember you said at that point, you had asked me to come to your
Yeah.
graduation.
I said-
I don't remember that.
I said, I know you're graduating. So am I. What day are you graduating?
Said that
Oh,
May 22nd.
okay. So it's a few days before mine. Did you want to come and see mine, and maybe we can carpool back to San Jose because we're from the same hometown? I know.
You asked for too much. I think that was the issue. I think if you had just said like, hey, I'd love to see you at graduation,
Yeah.
at my graduation, can you come? It'd mean a
Right.
lot. I think I would have made an effort to come up. But then you added can we carpool together to go back across the country to San Jose? And I was gone. Like, what were you? I think,
I don't even remember how I drove back. That was such a blur.
yeah, you did say you drove back, because then we met up in the summer after graduation. I was down in SoCal for grad school, and we both respectively bought, I think I bought you a pair of GW shorts, and you bought a West Point sweater. It's like a zip up. I
Yeah.
still have it,
Yeah, a hoodie.
a hoodie. And then we met up in SoCal
Yep.
with our respective significant others at the time.
Yeah.
And then did the exchange.
Yeah. I remember
So like,
that.
but like we've met up with each other a couple of times throughout our college career, even after high school, and like having my preconceived notions. And I was dating someone in high school who was very much gung ho, pro Army. You and him were actually pretty good friends.
Yeah, we were friends. Yeah.
And have a lot of respect for him still today.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. I remember when it was like the graduation night, Jonathan Carrick had pinned on his butter bars, his very own butter bars on you. And I just remember thinking like, ugh.
He just asked me about that the other day. He said, "Where is that butter bar?" And I was like, "I think I should still have it. It's just in a lockbox. I got to go find it."
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten rid of it. But they switched. The Army has Stay Bright, so you don't have to polish it with Brasso anymore. You can just put it on and it never gets dull.
Yeah. I just remember it meant a lot. It was very special. And this is me not even knowing anything about the military world. But just so you know, we were in East Side, San Jose school district. So it's notorious. Our high school actually was blacklisted with a lot of colleges.
Yeah.
So we're the survivors that came out of it. Our school is very proud of Tim. I just remember over the loudspeaker our senior year that they just kept saying, Tim Ings going to West Point. Like, I feel like that was on the loudspeaker every single day. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but it didn't help. It didn't help with how I felt about you, because I remember going, the rest of us are going to college too. Why is it so special? And I got early admissions into GW, and I didn't care for the announcement. I didn't tell the school. So like, you must have told the school to tell them, or maybe your dad did.
I think I was just on your mind every day.
Stop. You were, but not in a good way. And so like, I want to just build and kind of explain where we were in high school, because when I was in high school, I was very, very focused on my career. I didn't want children. I didn't want anything slowing me down. That's one of the reasons why I chose GW, because there was a 7-year BA MD program, which typically your BA is 4 years, and medical school is 4 years, and GW distinctly had a dual program that could do it in 7. So I can see our eldest has a little bit of me in her, because as much as I'm telling her to slow down, she has this drive that I can see where it might come from. But all that to say, our freshman year, when we came home and I went down to Stanford with my family, my mom and my sister, and ran into you there.
Yeah.
And your mom.
Mm-hmm. We were also shopping.
Yeah. Right. And we ended up meeting up at.
Yeah, we went to another
You must
mall.
have gotten my number.
Yeah. Yep.
It was really quick.
Yeah, I'm pretty good like that.
So then we went to Stone Ridge. We had lunch at CPK in Pleasanton, which ironically that ended up being where I spent 4 years at Workday. But Pleasanton to San Jose was a pretty far drive. Like back then, I never really left San Jose. I kind of just stayed around there. We maybe went to Valley Fair. I'm surprised we didn't go to Valley Fair. We went all the way up to
Did I drive
Pleasanton.
you or did we meet there?
I think we drove together.
No.
I think you picked me up and we drove.
That is a pretty long drive.
That is a long drive.
I think that was strategic, so I can talk to with you. in
Well,
the car.
so that's the thing. Like, I never saw you as a potential dude. And I think this is where I'm now realizing, like, could I go back in time and would I have done things different? And would we have stayed together? You tend to think that we wouldn't have made it.
No,
I don't think we
I think
would have
it's
made
just the timing.
I think the timing had to be, but I wish I knew then that, like, hey, this guy's the one, and you should probably stop.
So let's go back to, I mean, everything happened for a reason. Where in the Army, we made some decisions. And I remember I wanted to take command of a company because that was the next thing to do as a captain. I checked off all the other boxes. And the next role as a captain was to, and this was after deploying to Iraq for 18 months and coming back and going through a maneuver captain's career course in Benning. The next logical thing was to take command of a unit. But I also knew that once I took command of that unit, we were going to go to Afghanistan at the time. So I distinctly remember that night we were, I was a construction engineer for DTRA at the time. We were in New Mexico. And I told you, I said, hey, the branch manager told me I can have any choice I want, any post, but I'm going to go to Afghanistan. So wherever you want to go. And I remember you told me you were so upset. You're like, that guy is a jerk. I'm like, he's not a jerk. I mean, he knows that I have to do that. Everyone else is deploying during that time. At least he is giving me a say as to where to put my family. So you could have said Hawaii, and at least you'd be in Hawaii. I would be in Afghanistan. And so
when
that
was this?
This was 2010. That was when we made the decision to get out of the Army, because if I had stayed in, I would have had to take a unit. And they were standing up several units in Fort Bliss, Texas, so that we could send troops over to Afghanistan. But when we made the decision to stay in New Mexico, we opened up a frozen yogurt shop. We did wedding photography. And more importantly, we decided to start our family. And I didn't want to change that. I remember you told me, you're like, okay, if you go off, then we're staying here. And I knew that I didn't want to be away from you. I mean, obviously, deployment, I would be away. But it really put things into perspective. I always wanted to be a father. And I didn't want to miss out on our children growing up.
Well, when we were dating, I think it was when we were in the in DC together that senior year, and I asked you, like, okay, so like, what does your career plan look like? Because I was shooting for the moon, and you said, well, ultimately, I want to be a stay-at-home dad, and I was like, ew.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
look, it's just your answer right there. It's just very interesting because everybody I went to school with, we would talk about, like, okay, this is where we want to be. This is the school, the medical school that we're targeting. And so I was expecting something to that caliber, but it's, again, now I'm realizing in myself that if I have like my focus and I go heads down and I'm very resolute in it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, like you ended up being a stay-at-home dad
Mm-hmm.
and are fantastic at it. And I'm so grateful every day that you are the father of my children and that you're at home and you're attentive and you're there for them. And I had no idea that in my young 20s that was what I needed if
Yeah.
I was going to go far, if I was going to want to grow in my career, I was going to need a stay-at-home dad. Just was not at all in my radar.
Yeah.
So just another thing, for the kids when they're listening back to this.
Yeah.
You've always been a competitor, and
That's what I wanted to say too.
but you're like so much different
Yeah.
than the way that I compete.
Right.
I compete and I'm like, everybody move out of the way. I'm coming through and I don't care. I don't care how you feel. Like everybody's on you. Everybody should be running like track, right? Everybody's in their own lanes. I'm not running anybody over, but like I expect everybody to give their best and I'm going to give my best. And that's just how I compete. But I'm very much like, I'm going to go as fast as I can and I'm going to look left and look right. And I hope to see you there. I think the way that you and I compete are very different because I'm always like,
I think we take different approaches, which is why I laughed if you listen to the first part of the series. When it hurt a little bit because you said that you didn't think I was driven, but you don't know how driven I am. I'm just a lot quieter. So the reason being is that I think the way that we define success is different. When you're competing, yeah, but I'm an extreme competitor. I'm just very quiet. I have my goals in mind. Like I wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. Guess what? I'm a stay-at-home dad. I wanted to marry you. Guess what? I married you because you were hard to kind of bring back down because you were always on the go. And at the same time, like I also made it a note that I never want to hold you back from whatever opportunities or whatever you want to do career-wise. You were there for me when I was in the military. But I was also not gung-ho at the time. Even though I was in the military, I'm sure if my mind was made up to make general or make colonel, then I would have continued pressing forward. But because at the time I was on the fence there and my priorities changed so that I recognized I was pivoting now to prioritize my family first, and it wasn't just about me and my career, I was okay with that. And so even what you're talking about right now with our goals, if I have in mind a goal, I will achieve it. There's no goal yet that I have not achieved once I put my mind to it. And so I am a competitor. It's just a little bit different. And it's funny you mentioned the track because I would run the 4x1. So I would just run my portion once I get it, the baton. But in track, I want to already be there at the finish line. And in track, I was first heat. So I was one of the faster ones. I'm already going to be there at the finish line. You may not see me running alongside with you, but I like to just already make it there. Like either I'm ahead of you or I got there another way, but I'm still there.
I'm seeing that now. I think that the way that we approach life is very different, right? Like I want to get there as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think you're very patient. It's like the tortoise and the hare where, I mean, we can maybe talk about like all the other times that you tried. Because then after we graduated, well, no, prior to that. So we met up in SoCal mm-hmm. and then we did the exchange. Yep. And somehow after that, we started connecting again. I think you had broken up with your girlfriend or your girlfriend broke up with you. And then I felt like, oh, yeah, I have a friend. And you were safe because you were not in SoCal. You were just someone over the phone that I knew, and you were a safe person, a good friend. You were a good friend. And then we talked, and then one day I made ganchua, which is this sweet and sour tamarind soup. It's in the cookbook, The Nourishing Asian Kitchen. And I don't think I wrote it in the book, but I have a ganchua story. When I was making ganchua is literally translated to a sour soup. Gan is soup, and chua is sour. And there's pineapple, there's tamarind, there's fish, there's tomatoes, a little bit of vinegar, there's sweetness in there. But I got it down to the zao om, which is almost like a Vietnamese cilantro. But I was making this entire soup for the person I was dating at the time. We were actually engaged, and I wanted to see, this was the ganjua test is what I call it, because as I was making the soup and talking to you, because I was in grad school full time, and then I was working a part-time job to make ends meet, and food was always very important to me. It's always been very important to me. Even though I didn't eat organic at the times, I didn't know about it, I still took the time to make and cook from scratch, even in grad school, for myself, which was kind of a challenge. But I remember I took this day off. It might have been like a Sunday, and you and I were just talking, and I was talking through my emotions because you were a really good friend, and I was making this ganchua. And I think it was from this conversation that I said, so I don't know what to do. Do I break up with him? Because we were having a rough patch. One of the reasons why I moved down to SoCal was because though we were engaged, we were long distance. And so I didn't know how like my forever was going to look like. And we were both in the same grad school program. I had gotten accepted into it. So I was like, okay, well, this will be a good trial, but we never lived together. I always lived separate, and I've just always been independent that way. And so that day that I made the ganju and I was talking to you about it, I'm like, so what do I do? And then what did you say? What do I do? Am I supposed to break up with him? Do I stay with him?
I mean, it was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, dump him because I like you. But instead I said, well, I'm not qualified to give you my opinion. You're like, what are you talking about? And I said, because I'm biased. And you're like, what do you mean you're biased? And I said, well, I kind of like you. And then you hung up on me, and we didn't talk for a couple months after that. Kind of, I guess what's the term, like ghosted me after that.
Yeah. Well, because you were my friend, and you weren't supposed to say that. You're supposed to tell me what I was supposed to do or not do, but not tell me that you liked me. That was not at all on the table. So I remember the ganjua test was I then served the soup for him, and I watched him eat it, and he ate it like it was good, but didn't appreciate it. And I remember just like staring at him because in grad school, if I didn't cook my food, if I didn't buy my food, if I happened to buy fast food, then I wasn't eating that day. But because he lived at home with his parents, and his parents owned a to-go restaurant in LA, he always had food. And I think that's one of the things that really we can talk about, like what drew me to you was what really turned me off with that was realizing that he didn't appreciate what I had to do to make this meal, which was take a whole day off, buy all of the ingredients, put it all together, and then serve. And I remember at that point, you and I were no longer talking because you ruined our relationship.
That's right. My fault.
And so, but I remember like, what do I do? Because that question was still not answered. And so I was watching him and thinking like, yeah, I don't know if I want this to be my forever. I don't know if I could be with someone who doesn't appreciate like the working woman but like also traditional part of me.
Yeah.
Because not that I expected him to cook or anything, but I wanted someone to realize that this isn't easy, but he had it easy.
Yeah.
So then after that, we didn't talk for a couple of months. And then October, you had already planned to come and
Visit my brother. He was,
visit your brother.
yeah, he was starting at UC Irvine. I wanted to go visit him.
Yeah.
And
So,
this was a way, an excuse for me to also come see you too.
but we had talked about this trip prior to the Ganjua story. So
Yeah.
it was pretty early on. And then I remember we hadn't talked for a really long time. And then I think either you checked in, I think you checked in on me because I remember I was working at the law office and we were AOL instant messaging. And you said, hey, I'm still planning on coming. Don't worry if you don't have time, but I just wanted to let you know that I'll be in town.
Sure.
And do you remember that? And then
I remember that.
And then I said, well, hey, I told you that you could stay with me to save money.
So I came out to visit you and my brother. It was a good trip. I got you to finally make a decision, which was really difficult in breaking up with your boyfriend at the time, or fiance. And I knew that I wanted to see you soon. So I flew you out like next weekend or the weekend after that to Missouri, where I was. And it was really funny because just like in the very first part, you thought that I was graduating from West Point into becoming a private. I remember when I took you on post at Fort Leonard Wood, you actually thought it was going to be wagons and dusty dirt trails. And you were surprised to see that it's literally like a mini city. And, we have our own airport. We have our own fire department.
Grocery store. And
yeah,
everything.
we're self-sufficient within the post, the Army post. So it was a unique experience for you. I know we went and explored St. Louis and Fort Leonard Wood. And I think the thing that got you was that I made food.
The thing that got me was that I saw you beyond just being a friend was the fact that one of the mornings when I woke up, you were cooking. You made rice, sausage, and 2 eggs.
Yes.
And
very simple.
I remember just like watching you cook, and you were just like totally in your element, and you plated it and put it on your Corel plates and like served it. And I remember just watching you going, yes, someone who can appreciate the fact that you have to make your own food. You have to feed yourself. You have to know the skills, even if it's just rice, eggs, and sausage. That's totally fine. And
right.
I think that was what did it for me. It's so much that it meant so much to me that I coined that dish of yours, the Missouri special, because that really did it for me. I'd never at that point had someone cook for me.
Right.
I take that back. The previous one, I was sick on one of the days and couldn't get food. And this was before days of like Uber food delivery or what is it, DoorDash or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so what my ex ended up doing one of the days was he bought In-N-Out out in Long Beach, and I was out in Costa Mesa, so about like an hour drive. And there is an In-N-Out in Costa Mesa, by the way. But he bought it out in Long Beach, drove it down to feed me In-N-Out burgers and fries.
Yeah.
And I couldn't eat it because I was sick. And I said it was cold. So then he took the burger and the fries, took it to my frying pan and like stirred it all together.
Stir fry.
And then served it to me. And I was so offended. I thought that he was upset and mocking me for like demanding warmed up food.
Yeah.
And it truly was him thinking that you told me to warm it up, so I'm warming it up. And so like, that's why the Missouri special was really special for me, because I knew that you knew how to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, he's had to take care of himself.
Yeah.
Because of the military. So if he can do that, then you can take care of me. Not that I needed you to take care of me, but that you could.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment that I saw you with a different set of lenses.
Nice. I like that. Okay. So the rest is history there. And my Army career changed because of my family needs. And I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I missed out at all. Initially, I did. It was a really difficult transition leaving the Army because I felt my identity was tied to my rank. I worked so hard, and West Point and the Army was a huge part of my life that just leaving it and not having, I don't know, that feeling of significance or what I'm doing, it really was difficult. So I know you've always been there for me for these transitional periods, and thank God that you studied psychology. You could ask me the questions and kind of walk me through it so I could feel better about it. But it was a really important time in my life, and making that transition, getting a real job in the real world, and that was something that was new for me. I still had Army reserves, but for me, that was a huge move for me and for my family. Now I didn't have the safety and comfort of knowing that the government or the big Army was going to take care of me with basic housing allowance, that was non-taxable, so that I had all this money to rent a place or to buy a place and having that secure paycheck. But now I had to earn it on my own merits. I mean, Army, you earn it on your merits, but it's safer. Like, there's a system there that's built in. And I know that was a different time. I mean, I was scared. Anyhow, that was the first time we bought a house. And I can still recall how scary it was to buy our very first home, which is why it makes us really good, like me as a realtor and as you as a lender, to walk our first-time home buyers through the entire process, because I can still remember that time when we made our first purchase in New Mexico.
And we also didn't have a lender who could help us understand VA loans very well either. And then our agent who would go to bat for us because we had a VA loan.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the reason why we do what we do with our veterans today.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of agents who know how to work with veterans and who know how to sell the VA loan. And the VA loan, for us starting out as our first time buying a home, it is the best loan available because of the 0% down, the lower interest, but it's not as competitive when you go up against other offers that are conventional with a higher percent down payment. So that's one of the things that you and I do for our clients, and we do that really well, especially in the Bay Area where everybody and their mom has incredible amount of cash saved up or gifted, but our veterans may not. Even some of our West Point graduates that we help out throughout the Bay Area, you may not have a lot of cash saved up, but you have a VA loan, 0% down, and you're making good income coming out of West Point. So or any academy or most veterans do.
Right.
So then how do we get them and get their offers accepted? And
right. And the agents that we worked with in the past, they really didn't do us any favors, and we didn't really have good experiences at all. And now I can see why. If you read a lot of the Facebook posts, a lot of people say, why do I even need a real estate agent? I can just do it myself. And yeah, there are so many realtors out there, millions of realtors. And at the end of the day, they're just wanting to close a deal. They're looking at it transactionally. They don't really care.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to sound cheesy or anything, but we actually do care. But we also cherry pick our clients too. We may not work well with every single client, and that's because we pour our heart out into it. And if we're walking you through the process, we're not making the recommendation, but we'll give you some advice in terms of some hints as to what we've seen in our past and based on our experiences of, is this a good buy? Because I was just out with our first-time home buyers 2 or 3 days ago, and they asked for my opinion afterwards. And I'm very honored when my clients ask me, Well, what do you think about the home, Tim? And I chuckle a little bit because I'm like, well, I'm not buying the house, but I understand what they're asking is that, is this a good purchase?
Would you buy
Would
this
you buy
house?
it? And it is a great question because every time we do go out and I see the home, I'm imagining, would I buy this house? And if I wouldn't buy this house, then there was one, I'm just going to share this real quick because I know it's not related to Army, but it's related to helping vets and helping my clients because of the servant leadership that I gained from the military. But this one house that my client loved because he wants a workshop, this house was custom built to be a workshop. And then there was a house as well. So it was a massive house. Think of like a man's cave first and then a little bit of the house. And he loved it. And I was trying to caution him. I said, yeah, you may love it, but if it doesn't work out for you in the next 3 to 5 years and you have to move, I'm seeing a lot of red flags as to possibly why, like, they're already having difficulty selling it right now too, because it's a custom built house. There's a shared easement driveway where your neighbor has a junk car out and that they're going to have to drive past it every single day. And people don't like to see that. And these are a couple of things that I noted. And I said, yes, that's a nice house. Whereas if I were transactional, I'd be like, great, just put an offer in. This is exactly what you want. Not trying to push my own things onto my clients, but I do want to, based on my experience of what I've seen and also based on the success rates of my clients who have purchased in the past and have either refinanced or sold their home because of work or family reasons. I've been there and I've done that. And so no matter what, if the property is in California or Tennessee, it's all about the location. It's all about how the home is built. And is it a desirable home and location for other people? Because you want to make sure that it's going to appeal to a good majority. So that, anyways, that was a very tough discussion to have, but my client was very thankful that I spoke to them about it and gave them some thoughts to think on. That now they're asking me, I built that trust with them that, hey, Tim, they know I'm not just trying to get the deal done, okay? That even if it takes them some time, I want to make sure that they have a really good experience and then they get into the right home.
Well, I think that what's important to you and for me is that our clients are part of our community, right? Whether they are here or there, doesn't really matter. They become part of our inner circle.
Yeah.
I could not tell you who our lenders have been. All of our lenders of the properties that we've bought before. Right. I couldn't tell you their names in Albuquerque.
Or the realtors either.
Or the realtor. Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember.
And that's not how we do business.
No.
Like our clients still, we are involved. We are there for them. We're there for their home purchase, for them to move out. Like one of my favorite stories is one of my old coworkers from Workday. She was dating somebody, then they got married. We helped them buy their condo. They sold their condo. We helped them buy their first house in Concord. They had their baby. Then they are now looking into school systems. So we helped them sell that one and buy a house in Walnut Creek.
Yeah.
And we've been a part of that process through the purchases and the refinances all throughout. Mm-hmm. And they trust us. They ask us if they should be doing this. When should they be doing this? And we don't take that responsibility lightly. We never have. And our clients still work with us regardless of wherever we're at. Our California clients know that we split our time here in Tennessee and they still work with us.
Yeah.
And that's why, for 2026, we're going to be covering all 50 states.
That's right.
For lending.
Yeah.
Because we have our clients all over. And now with our platform and a lot of people asking us if we can help them where they're at, we want to be able to serve you there because we don't want just the one, we're not transactional like that. I don't think we ever have. And that's part of what we have gone through from your time in the military, from our time in deployment, all of the struggles and challenges that we've had in our early years. Like Tim and I didn't come from money. We worked and earned every bit of it.
Yeah.
From taking advantage of you being a veteran and taking advantage of the 0% down and that because we didn't have any money down.
Yeah.
to then building up and starting to look into investments and making small moves here and there. But like we didn't have anybody to handhold us through this, not even our own parents. Our parents are very fearful of investments. So we really didn't have anybody to trust. And so in the work that we do, we don't take it lightly because we do see our clients as our friends, and we see that our positioning as being their advisors for their family. Like, what time should we be purchasing? When should we be refinancing? Those are, and you would think for me as a lender, most lenders will tell you now it's always a great time. But no, I have screenshots of conversations with my clients that I've posted on my Instagram to show you that I will let you know whether it's time or not. I'm not going to put you in a worse position because I'm not going to be able to sleep at night. And I want you to be able to make your monthly payments. I want you to feel comfortable with it. I want you to save money on your monthly payments when it's time to, and to make investments with all of the extra savings that you'll have. Those are big financial things that Tim and I will love to talk more about in 2026 to really help you. When we talk about homestead security, it's not just physical security. It's the security of being able to pass down generational wealth. And that starts with first securing your own home, your homestead financially as well.
So we made a pivot. We got into real estate. I know we just kind of started talking about real estate. How did we get there? We were both working professionally. Sophie was in tech. I was working for the government. And then through happen chance. I mean, Sophie was already licensed as a lender back in 2006.
In grad school.
But then and then you got into psychology, and then you got into tech and marketing. And then for me, coming back to the Bay, I was working for the government, and through our mutual friend from high school was introduced to a broker. I was more interested in real estate investing. And when I'm looking back, I'm kicking myself for not owning more homes in the past when I was in the Army. And each place that I was stationed at, I should have purchased and held and rented out those properties. But in any case, now when I'm working with clients, I'm always making that recommendation. If you can buy and hold, obviously it's better for me if you sell, but I always tell my clients, if you're able to, hold on to your property, add that to your portfolio. It's really good for you. It should be a part of your retirement plan, really.
When we work with young cadets and we work with veterans coming out of the military, it's just really great to see how motivated they are. They know the system, they know the game rather. Which is, as veterans, the VA loan. If you can take advantage of it, that's the best thing.
Yep.
And then there's this concept of house hacking, which we have done in our own properties, where you live in one unit and you rent out the others.
Right.
And in that way, you're able to take advantage of any benefits of owning multiple properties in one, or multiple units in one. And a lot of our veterans take advantage of that, and then take out the equity and make additional investments.
Yeah. We pivoted to real estate, and we were pretty successful. And I was thinking about real estate investing, but I didn't think I would be good at real estate sales because I had my preconceived notions about salespeople, and I'm more introverted. And I didn't want to be, slimy or anything like that, or pushy. But I did discover through the process that I actually do love sales, and I love doing real estate because I'm actually helping individuals or couples or families solve a problem and help them overcome one of their greatest fears, and that's to own property. And even one of our clients today, she was just being vulnerable and explained to us that her parents and her grandparents never owned property. So bear with her and have patience with her because she has to get over this block, right? And I really appreciated that, and we've been walking her through it. But I didn't want to make this about real estate, but I wanted to explain how we got to where we're at now from my education at West Point and taking the different turns, but being open to the opportunities. And that's something that West Point did teach me one of the leadership principles was to be flexible, to be adaptable to an ever-changing battle environment. I know we're not on a battlefield, but sometimes it may feel like that in the world, okay? And you have to assess the situation, what's going on right now, and how can I make it better for me and my family. Real estate became something that I really loved and something I thrived in. And we worked together in the Bay Area and helping veterans and use their VA loans. And then when 2020 happened, I think everybody pivoted at that point, or it seemed like a great majority of Americans, their world changed. I know our world changed. And we recognize, and I'm giving the really quick rundown. You can read our story from the Nourishing Asian Kitchen cookbook, as well as our second book coming out, The Nourishing Asian Homestead. We go into our story as to what happened in 2020. I mean, everyone was there, right? And everyone has their own story. But for us, we knew that we had to make a change in our daily life in the Silicon Valley. And we wanted to get land, and I'm giving you the quick version. We wanted to get land, and we essentially made a 180. We learned as much as we could, taking with us the skill sets that we had and the motivation, the drive of think of a startup company and how fast you have to move. Well, we moved at that same intensity because neither one of us grew up working on a farm or learning how to do a lot of these things. But we sought subject matter experts like Joel and Daniel Salatin, for instance, and we learned from them, and we ramped up as quickly as possible to owning land up in Lincoln, California, that's been between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe, and bringing in ruminants, to moving clear across the country to a state I didn't even know where it was located on a map, to a location where we had zero friends and family when we first landed. But the reason why we made them move is because we did our homework, we did our research, we went out there, we spent some time. So it wasn't just blindly pick a spot on the map and go there, but actually being intentional about it. Sophie does a lot of great research. And then I was able to go in and actually operational wise meet with the people and figure out logistically how we can make all of this happen. Well, just in a short amount of time, literally like in about a year, we were able to make a move, and we moved out. We purchased some property out in East Tennessee and started a homestead, but we weren't doing it by ourselves. Okay. When we came out, we identified a community of people that could help us as well. As Sophie mentioned, we split our time between California and Tennessee. So we're not that again, I'm going to attribute to West Point and the Army time of the idea of building systems so that you can run things more efficiently. We're able to complete the goals that we set out to by creating these communities. And now we're able to raise our own proteins, our own livestock. And this is another pivot because now I'm coming back to our 20-year reunion. So I show up to this 20-year reunion. I don't know what I'm expecting. I just know that I want to go on a vacation with the family. We go to DC. We go to New York City.
We went 10 years ago, and I was pregnant with our youngest at the time. But I'll just say this trip was just bad timing because there's a lot of things that we needed to take care of. We're also in the middle of transitioning and making sure that the dairy cows are not in milk anymore. We're drying them up, and we've got to do fencing. There's a lot of projects that you want to get done before the snow comes. And right when we get home, of course, the snow's here. I still had a lot of lemongrass that I need to harvest. They're hard to get out of the ground and then to process. And so this trip was very important for you. My college, even though it was like our 20th year, is not as important for me because our network isn't as strong as from what I saw at West Point. Incredibly unique.
Yeah.
But I knew this was important to you, so we went on this trip, and I'm so glad we did.
Yeah, we went to New York City. We did all the touristy things, the Empire State Building. We went to some Broadway shows. But going to West Point, I was a little apprehensive. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a lot of best friends coming out of West Point. There were a lot of people that I knew, and a lot of my closer friends I knew weren't going to be there.
Yeah.
So I went in with an open mind, just like nowadays. And I think that's a lot from you that I've learned to be more adaptable. I mean, yeah, I attribute it to the Army, but you've also taught me to loosen up a little bit. So just to be more open-minded.
Yeah, it's one of the things that, like, when I go and travel, I love to see old friends and stay with them.
Right.
And very early on when we got together, you didn't like that at all. You liked to rather keep to ourselves and then stay at a hotel. But a lot of my friends have always been like, yeah, come stay with us. Like, don't worry about that. And that's how I was with you too. When you came down to visit, I was just like, don't waste money on a hotel. Come stay with me.
Well, you pushed me out of my comfort zone. We were Airbnb-ing places. We brought our dog. I rented a Suburban because we didn't want to put miles on our car, but we had to bring everyone. We had the whole family. We had my mother-in-law, and I was thinking more about the logistics of all of that and moving around. And I will never drive a Suburban again through New York City. It
and
is
DC.
just madness going through Manhattan. But all that to say is that we did go to West Point, and it felt nice coming back. I mean, it was kind of like coming home. All these memories came up, and it's like, wow, I remember when I went there, or I've been there, and I want to show them. And I booked an alumni-only tour. So this is different than the normal guest tour if you book it outside the visitor center and ride the bus. This is only open to alumni. So I booked this tour well in advance, and good thing I did because they were all sold out during that week of the reunions, because there were 4 classes doing the reunions. My class, 05, 10, 15, and 20. And I didn't know what was going to be on the tour, but they said that you can reminisce and they're going to be able to show you inside some of the buildings. So I said, okay. We went on this tour, and it was awesome. We got to see the new library, got to see the classrooms. We got to see the gym where I ran the IOCT, and I was able to share the story with you as well as with the children. And it gave you a greater perspective as to what I went through. And then we also got to see the parade and speak to some of the other cadets. But I'm going to say that I was proud to really see a lot of my classmates get promoted to 05, 06, lieutenant colonel and a full bird colonel. A part of me before would have been like, I wish I was there and that I made that rank. But I've also realized through this trip that I'm a leader in my own right, because today I am leading others live more resilient lives through purchasing homesteads or using whatever they have right now and making it into a thriving homestead and making their homestead secure based on my safe method and sharing my knowledge of what I learned from West Point, what I learned on the battlefield, and incorporating it in today's world, because it sure does feel like a battlefield sometimes, and especially nowadays. And I've always had a heart to serve, whether wearing uniform and now without the uniform. And I really feel that my mission is very important today. Our motto with the class of 2005 is keeping freedom alive. And I really, truly feel that I am doing that today, keeping freedom alive by equipping those who want to learn how they can be more self-sufficient, whether it's hands in dirt, hands in soil, buy dirt and build soil, because that is something that is therapeutic and actually healing for those, especially people like me who've gone through war and have suffered PTSD. I love working in the soil. I love working with livestock, with the animals. It's just so healing. And I want to be able to share my knowledge with as many people as possible and help everyone get ramped up as quickly as possible. Save time, save money, save yourself the grief and frustration, and get to what you want to do faster. And that's my calling today, because everything that what you're learning and what we've been taught in schools, we're coming to realize, and it's just been an awakening period, that even down to, you're talking about nourishing foods, the food pyramid is upside down, and things like that. What we were taught in schools is different. They taught us to become workers in a factory. That's part of the Industrial Revolution. And I will say that West Point as well, even though they are the leadership factory, they are the premier leadership institution, they create great leaders within the system, within the military system. So our officers are second to none in terms of moving up the ranks within that system to be general officers. So it's a great thing. But I will recognize that many of the leadership skills that I did learn, I was able to take away from West Point and apply it to my life today. And this was truly where my eyes are wide open, that I'm looking out on the parade field and my family's behind me and they see me. And I'm standing by myself and I'm looking out, I'm looking at my classmates, looking at the cadets out there marching. And I'm just doing a lot of self-reflection because I'm thinking, I remember when I was a cadet and I had to march, every weekend and every other day practicing, and how I envisioned my life to be. And I always thought it was going to be this grandiose military life and go to these balls and whatnot. And then I look in front of me and I see my classmates and I know that they got promoted, and I'm happy for them. If that is what they wanted to do, then that's great. But I also overheard a lot of them say that they don't know what they want to do when they get out of the Army, when they retire in the next couple of years or so.
And some said they were going to reach out to you.
And a lot of them did say they're going to reach out to me. So then I'm like, whoa, that really changed a lot of things, because I'm here in my own bubble, fighting my own fight here and helping bring up all these other people who want to follow, who want to learn how to become more resilient, that I didn't even think. Like, I thought I was going back into a time capsule here and meeting with my friends and my other classmates. But hearing their struggles as well, that they're not sure what they want to do the next couple of years. They're still trying to find themselves. They're burnt out. Like, they're done after the Army took all their best years, and now they just want to take a break. I can't blame them. Go on a vacation, go on a cruise or something, just to kind of veg out for a little bit. But eventually you're going to have to come back and hit the grind. So what is that going to look like, where they're going to feel like they still have purpose and meaning to their life? And I'm very grateful for where I am today, because every single day, and I need to stop and not just be so concerned about the day-to-day things and being in the mud. Like today, I was literally covered in mud on my whole site because I slipped out there. And it was just with a lot of cow pie. But I just had to laugh about it, because I truly have the freedom to be able to be outside with the animals, to grow my own food, to homeschool my children. That's what true freedom looks like. And I know my classmates and other soldiers, we just celebrated Veterans Day. And I am so thankful for those who wore the uniform and served their country. I know I did, and I don't regret any of that. I'm still very proud to do what I've done as well. But they fight for the freedoms, to uphold the Constitution, these rights, so that we can have all these freedoms and liberties. And yet they're not free. When I was wearing the uniform, we were told exactly what we needed to do, right? We're within the system. We couldn't be free, but we were the ones keeping other people free. And now I'm finally realizing, I am truly free. And that's why my classmates, some of them who don't know what they want to do, they want to be free as well. And I am thankful. I am grateful for where I'm at. And I want to be able to help as much as I can. And I am a leader in my own right, in terms of leading others in this fight to be more resilient and not be so reliant on a system that is broken, that we've seen in 2020, where grocery stores shut down. I mean, today, if Costco shut down, there'd be pandemonium. But we have 7 full freezers of meat, of grass-fed, grass-finished meat. that's freedom. That's what it looks like. And so I am grateful, and we've had experiences hitting the grind, working in tech, working at corporations, to now raising and growing our own food and having that taste of freedom. And I will attribute all of that back to going to West Point because of what I learned and what I've been able to apply. But I was able to break out of that mindset. And I don't know if that makes sense. We had this discussion, and I'm like, if I had to do it all over again, I would hands down go back to West Point, but I'm going back with eyes wide open. Now, I hope that wouldn't change my experience in terms of maybe I've been questioning too many things there and maybe not graduating, but I do see the value of the education and what I learned at West Point, but I also am grateful that I'm also not still part of that system, that I didn't stick with that system, because our lives would look a whole lot different today.
Well, I feel like you broke free. And I remember watching you, and I saw you. You had a look of contentment in your face. And it's great to hear your perspective, to say that you were looking at the cadets and that was you. And then, where you were standing, you saw your classmates who were still in full dress.
Yeah,
because they're still active. And I remember we didn't come up to you. We wanted you to, like, you were deep in thought. You were processing it, and we wanted you to feel that.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk to you later about it. And so I'm so grateful that, we did start talking about it, and I said, well, this needs to be on the podcast. Like, we need to have this documented so the children can see and can listen. But a lot of the times we get stuck in our own to-do list. We have so many things that we need to get done, and there's always going to be challenges, time restrictions, financial things. And for you to see that, like, after 20 years of being away, you forged a new path. I would argue to say, of all of the West Point leaders in all of history, you are what I would consider truly to be the number one leader of this new system, this alternate system that we live.
Right.
That is the answer to, I think everybody's kind of waking up to the fact that the current system that we all we were born and raised in is quite corrupt.
Yeah.
From the food system to the financial system, the voting, like all of the things that the military, the education system, the healthcare, everything is quite corrupt.
Yeah.
And here you are on this other side. I don't know. I think maybe there's a few other West Pointers in the lead with their respective, health perspective, kind of like the sovereignty aspect of it, and knowing that. But you are the one that knows it. And then on top of it, you're doing something about it. And that's taking control over your own food and the education that you're giving to your children, and you're able to provide for our family. And then on top of that, not only are you leading, but you're also inspiring others and bringing up others, because that's what a true leader does, is to inspire and bring up the rest of us who don't know who else to look up to that has a true leadership position. Now, doesn't mean that you have to know everything and be the best at everything, because that's nearly impossible across all the different aspects of, just talking about homesteading, but we do it with a purpose of, like, truly taking care of your own family. And a lot of people, we weren't taught these skills in school. Let's just be real here. We weren't taught how to plant a seed into the ground. We weren't taught home ec anymore.
Right.
I think I had maybe one home ec class in 8th grade, but after that, like, forget about it. We're not taught to cook from scratch. We're not taught to raise up animals. Like, all of this stuff in our school systems, and we both grew up in the public school system. That's
Yeah.
not what we were taught at all. So the fact that like we had to go learn and position ourselves in an area where some of our best friends, we talk about it, they're in their 70s. And that's who we're learning from. They are the ones who've been doing this their whole entire lives.
Yep.
And now, because of their age and limitations, we can come in to help them with that labor. But we're also learning the skills and kind of shortcutting that path where you can't learn from reading in books almost. You really do have to learn hands on.
Yeah.
And then we really did a deep dive and went back to our roots because we were like, well, what does it mean to be Asian American, Asian in America?
Right.
And for me, that went back to getting all of mom's recipes. How do we cook nourishing meals? How do I optimize for our health? That's truly why we homestead. That's why we choose this lifestyle, because we want to optimize for mastery for our children over their education, mastery over our own health, and having control over, at best, of what we think that we need for our own bodies, our own minds, mindset work, a lot of that, down to building soil. And how do we optimize for nutrient density with the vegetables that we grow, the animals that eat the grass that we raise? Like it's just this full circle. And nobody is, as a West Pointer, if you're talking about the #1 elite military academy in the entire world, I don't know another West Pointer who is talking about it and actually doing something about it. And then not only just doing it, but inspiring others. You put together the Homesteaders United Conference. This will be going into our 3rd year,
Yeah.
but it's to inspire everyone else who has the same questions. We don't know who to look up to. There's so much conflicting information. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources, all the things that we had to deal with when we were looking into homesteading.
Yeah.
And we didn't have anybody. We had, other than Joel, who had classes at his location, which we ended up flying out to Polyface Farms 3 times in 2020 and 2021 because we didn't know anybody else who was renowned for talking about regenerative farming and actually offering classes. And so we were flying from California and we flew our entire family out. It was a huge investment, but we're so grateful for those experiences today that then opened the doors for us to look into Korean natural farming, Asian natural farming, and learning all of the most efficient ways to build up soil and to produce nutrient-dense food for our family and then ultimately our community.
Yeah. That was a lot. And it's very deep. And this is why I needed that trip to go back to West Point 20 years later to see that, like what my life could have been, where I've been, what I've done in between, and where I'm at now. And I have a much greater appreciation for what I am doing today, that it is very meaningful for what I'm doing and the purpose. I mean, it very well is kind of life and death, really, depending on how you look at it. It's not like in combat, life and death, but it is. If you listen to a lot of the conversations I have with my clients, they wish that they were already doing it yesterday in terms of raising their own food, and that it is that important that they are going to pick up their family's lives and do a 180 from where they are at in their life right now and living in the cities to picking it up and moving it across country just like we did. And a lot of them have been inspired by our own story. Now, we didn't do it to inspire others, but in the process of doing it, we have found that we have inspired others. And it's very humbling, and we're very honored to do so, to take up that charge. And for my classmates and for other West Pointers who want to do it, I want more West Pointers to be stepping up and leading the fight. I can't do it by myself. I mean, we talk about it all the time about our goal is to raise up, people who can purchase 10,000 1-acre farms and save that instead of the 10,000-acre farm, right? We want more people involved in it. It takes a community. It's a team effort.
It takes
right?
an army of us.
It takes the entire army, right? And so I'll be quick to say that I know other people may say that West Point brainwashes, or the military brainwashes, but I would also say colleges in general brainwash a certain way, in terms of their stance on things. But if you have the right foundation going into it, then you know what you're looking for. And I will say that for all the things, there may be negative things about West Point, I actually take a lot of the good. And I know that there are a lot of positive attributes in terms of leadership styles and leadership principles that I have taken and I have applied myself, I know personally, in the military as well as now outside of the military. And that's why I've been able to thrive and be able to move as fast as I'm able to with that type of military discipline and making sure that I get the mission done at all costs. It doesn't matter what the temperature is out there or what's going on, I will get it done. And I know I've displayed some of that growing up, but I know that West Point further intensified it. And so I am very grateful for where I went to school. And that's why it was really nice to go back. And it's not for the reason that I thought it was going to be. It was more for a greater appreciation for what I'm doing today. I thought it was going to be more about going on vacation, catching up with some classmates, having a drink, and sharing a few laughs. But it went way deeper than that. We had conversations after the reunion. I had spent time with friends at their homes and
the party after.
But we're not, believe us, we're in our 40s. We're not partying like that. And so we're really just sharing stories, remembering fallen comrades, and just going deep as to what we want to do with the rest of our lives. And I was sharing stories with people that I didn't talk to before when I was a cadet, because even though our school is small, we're separated into our regiments. And so if I don't have class with you or if I don't live near you, then chances are I never got a chance to speak to you. And so that's why one of the parties that I went to in the evening, I got to know 3 more people that I didn't get to spend much time with at the academy, and found out that I had a lot of shared similarities and dreams and goals. So it was really nice to do that.
Well, I know from our conversations while you were there, and even after this after party that you had, you came home and just kind of shared everything. I said, well, I hope you see that this is why you need to share your story.
Yeah.
You have such a unique story, and I obviously am biased myself because I think I'm always going to think my husband's awesome, but you have a very unique story. One that you haven't shared even is the fact that you're a decorated combat veteran. And I know you're very humble, and I know that you're not comfortable sharing these things because there's others that have given more than you have, especially in combat.
Right.
But you earned a Bronze Star while you were over in Iraq. And that's not a small feat.
Right.
Not everybody is handed a Bronze Star, but it was a meritorious award.
Meritorious, not valor. So I didn't go in and save somebody out of like a burning vehicle, but it was through my actions and keeping the route safe through route clearance and keeping our road safe, because we only had 2 platoons out there, me and another platoon leader who was also a West Pointer, and we were keeping the road safe. And we had thousands of miles to cover to make sure that they were safe for our friendly units to be able to travel down the roads. Because if a road was black, that meant you can't travel. It's unsafe. And so it was a very big deal, and it was a big responsibility to take on. But I was happy to do it because I felt that it was very meaningful work of what my soldiers and I were doing. And I mentioned it in the first part that I'm glad that I was able to bring them all home safely. That was my main concern. You can get caught up with politics about war, and I didn't agree with why we went to war. But I will tell you this, and every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine will tell you the same thing, is that we're not there to fight for you. We're there to fight for each other. So when you're out there and you're fighting to stay alive. To your brother and your sister on your right and your left, you're keeping them alive because you're hoping they're going to keep you alive. And then it just becomes that. And we watched Hunger Games, and for the first time for me a couple months ago, and I'm like, that's so brutal. And then I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, it essentially is a Hunger Games. When you are deployed, you had no say as to who our country is going to fight with, but you're now deployed wearing the American uniform, and they tell you these guys are the bad guys. Oh, okay, sure. Then it's kind of like Hunger Games. It's either kill or be killed. And I sum it down to that because it becomes basic needs at that point. You're not thinking about the other person, the enemy's family. You're thinking about, I need to take that person out, or I need to do this. Otherwise, they're going to take me out, or they're going to take my comrades out. And so it becomes a game of survival, really, at the end of the day. And that's why I'm not for war. And anyone who has gone to war will tell you this. I would say 99% of people who have deployed into combat will tell you they're against war. And if they are for war, maybe they should get a psychological checkup, because that's not normal. When you go to war and you see people, when you see people pass away and you see friends pass, like that takes something away from you, like a part of your human aspect, just dies. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I didn't think it was going to be, we're going to talk. But it was an important time for me. It was a time for me when I really grew up and really matured even more. So having to deal with really adult things, life and death, and learning how to, it wasn't more of processing my emotions, but helping my soldiers, because I had young kids who were barely maybe 16 years old witnessing death for the first time, and literally had being shell shocked. We weren't capable of going back out for at least a week or so. We had to have time to decompress or seek psychological help, my whole unit, while we were in country. So it was a big deal. We were the first ones to see death in country for that sector that we were in. I, for the life of me, can't even remember it. I think I blocked it out of my mind, which is probably a good thing for like survival. But I share this with you because that's what I had to go through. So yes, there are not a lot of veterans who have gone to combat today, but I have gone to combat. I do understand. I do appreciate life. I've also seen the full circle, and I want to make sure that my life matters, that I make it count every single day. And I see and I appreciate life with our animals too, that I thank our animals, even when we have to process them, that they only have one bad day, that for the other days, so they're being nurtured, that they're getting the best possible grass, that they're having freedom to roam, that they're living their best lives, okay? Because it's what God intended. And I have a greater appreciation for their lives as well. And I think I wouldn't have had that if I didn't deploy and if I didn't have this time to process everything. And I'm happy, if I have to like sum it up now, I'm happy with where we're at today. I don't know what it looks like in the future, but I'm going to take the same approach. I'm always going to be open to opportunities. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing right now and raising our foods and helping others do the same. I feel like that is a very good cause, but it's amazing to just actually have an opportunity to slow down for once and look back and see where I've come. And I'm not like giving myself like a huge pat on the back, but it's just like, wow, I do want to take a moment because all the struggles paid off. I've struggled through West Point. I struggled through the Army, and I've struggled through farming. There's a lot of things that I had to learn, and I'm still learning. Okay. I'm not an expert by no means on anything here, but I do know that I won't give up. So if I have my mind set on something, I'm not going to give up. You do a great job researching, and we're a great team. We work together to do homesteading. Looking back, I still wouldn't change anything in terms of those moves. I joke about it, but I would have made better investment choices in terms of purchasing real estate properties instead of playing the stock market before '07 and '08. I mean, who would have known? But actually purchasing real estate when we were younger, coming out and moving from post to post, I think that would have been a very smart buy.
It's just time in market versus timing the market.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. This was a great trip. I think you put it together so beautifully. And I'm glad that we were able to capture this right after the event and coming home and really processing all of the kind of overwhelming emotions of what we didn't expect was going to come out of this trip and how healing it has been for you and for me. And hopefully that will make us better partners and better parents and better stewards. We can appreciate what we have instead of just being heads down and seeing all the things that have gone wrong, right? And how it could be better, but to appreciate that and appreciate every single one here so that we can share our story.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for listening. If you've listened into this entire series, it'll probably be close to 4 hours in if you listen to part 1 and part 2 now.
I haven't checked the time, but we really appreciate you tuning in. And if you could please share it with your family and friends, and be sure to subscribe, hit that subscribe button for us. That would mean the world for us on YouTube there, so we can continue to put out more content. We're just very thankful and grateful that you are here to join us in this, and that we can actually have community here as well, even if it's virtual. If we in some way can inspire you to take that next step into homesteading or just purchasing a home itself, please reach out to us. We'd be honored to help you. This has been an ongoing journey. We're continuing to learn every single day, and we would love to continue learning with you. So thank you so much. Stay healthy and have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.